Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and look who I found after quite some time.
MIA boy.
MIA boy, my bud Dave.
Here I am.
Here he is.
What's up?
my bud, I off air, I said your hip hop name is MIA boy or boy MIA.
MIA boy.
I'm not sure which order we're gonna go in, but you're back.
MIA boy. I am back.
MIA boy, aka boy MIA. I don't know. That's like a.
Well,
isn't there a rapper that did that? Isn't there a rapper that fucking changed?
Well, there's MIA. Well, no, there's MIA. She's like, like that one pop singer. I forgot. I think that's what her name is.
But I feel like
and then there's Mia X. There's a few people with the MIA in it. So
isn't there like Cardi Playboy
and then join the group.
Playboy Cardi or something stupid like that?
Something like that. Yeah.
I know there's a couple rappers that their names sound similar, but it's like the reverse or it's the same fucking person. I don't know. I'm talking shit here, but yes, Dave is back.
I'm back. Listen, this is a perfect. What you just by calling me MIA boy. This is a perfect way to go into something really quickly. So. Last Tuesday at the Mahoney Drive-In, I did my first DJ set at the screening of Total Recall, and it was fucking awesome.
That's amazing.
My name was DJ Baby Boy. That's what I go by. And I gotta say, from being able to do a podcast for the past, 3 years or something like that?
3 years.
2.5, something like that?
3 years. Going on 3 years, dude.
Yeah. So it was so easy for me to just get on the microphone and just talk, just you know what I mean? I thought I was going to be nervous, but I was after the first announcement I made, I was like, oh, this is just like doing a podcast.
Yeah, man, see?
So I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to say it was just...
Your podcasting career has helped your DJing. I mean, your blossoming DJ career that you've got going on. Are you planning, for the listeners, are you planning on DJing going forward? Is there going to be more DJ Baby Boy appearances?
Oh, definitely. I got a really, really great feedback. I had a bunch of people coming through because it's in the projection booth.
Gotcha.
So a lot of people came in asking me what did you just play? Blah, blah, blah. And dude, I played everything. I wasn't playing just I was playing shit from fucking Lil Ugly Mane to fucking Laz Rocket to fucking Salem. I was playing everything. So it was fun. I want to do another one.
Nah, I have to go when you're DJing eventually. I have to make my way out there. Yeah. But if any of the listeners visit the Mahoney Drive, hopefully, we get some updates when you're DJing again so we can kind of promote it.
I'll let you know.
So if any of our listeners...
This weekend coming up.
Yeah, time of this recording.
I'm not doing that, but...
Yeah. But if in the future you're DJing and any of the listeners go to the Mahoney for whatever event it is you're DJing at, we got to let them know to keep an eye out. Say what's up, what's good, DJ Baby Boy.
My little pose right here.
Is that going to be the DJ headshot?
It could be.
You're with a mic next to your face, and you're you should have I know you're not using vinyl records, but you should just have a stack of wax next to you for no reason.
Yo. They do have a record player that you could play tapes and records, but I've just used a Spotify playlist and that's it.
Way too much work.
That's fine with me. Yeah.
But that's good. Definitely.
So that's what I wanted to say. I just wanted to throw that out there.
And it is a fitting movie. I feel like a DJ set or DJing during a Total Recall screening is perfect.
Picked that up. I picked that one purposely.
Because
you could sign up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I signed up for Total Recall. It was a Tuesday. We went Tuesday night, and then there's a lot of people there too. A lot of drive, literally people that just drove up. Usually they do their pre-sales. A lot of people just came and drove in and paid for it, which was really cool.
They really came to see you DJ, not Total Recall. It was to see DJ Baby Boy. That's really that was the real reason they showed up, not for the Arnold movie that everyone loves. Total Recall is fucking awesome,
man. That movie's fucking awesome. It really is.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while, but I'm quite familiar.
It's great.
But let's jump into the matter at hand. And that is the adventures of Pete and Pete.
What is it about Halloween that gets kids all wiggly? For some, it's eating enough candy corn to launch a lunar probe. But for my brother Pete, it's something much simpler. Immortality.
I would call this a Dave show through and through. But you're not the biggest Adventures of Pete and Pete fan, right?
I mean, it's weird because I remember bits and pieces of the show. I remember a lot of the characters. It's a good show, don't get me wrong. I just think I was just more of an Are You Afraid of the Dark, Doug, Rocko's Modern Life guy. Like that. Like those are the shows I was drawn to more than Pete and Pete was. Like, if I'm being honest, you know what I'm saying? But don't get me wrong, I do enjoy the show. I'm just not a purist like some of these people out there, you know?
No, for sure. And it's funny because just knowing your taste and what you like and the type of shit you enjoy.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
It comes off to me as just like a show Dave would love. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why, and I'll say I'm gonna compare the show to something in a minute. Mm-hmm. And that's why I consider it a Dave show. Now, for me personally,
I know you like this a lot.
I'm a fan of it. I did watch it a lot as a kid, but when I hear something funny, just like you, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Ren and Stimpy, big Ren and Stimpy. I'm a huge Ren and Stimpy fan, even though there's a lot of controversy behind the scenes with one of the creators or whatever with the show. But
I didn't know that. Okay,
I'm not gonna get into
don't
that.
Don't even get into it.
Yeah.
Don't. It's fine.
Yeah, Google it sometime. But
I will. I had no idea.
I'm a big fan of Are You Afraid of the Dark, Ren and Stimpy. Those are more so the two shows to me that represent old school Nickelodeon.
Sure.
To me.
Sure.
Like, I just always remember those two shows. We've talked about Are You Afraid of the Dark before. We've talked about Ren and Stimpy, I'm sure has come up as well. We've talked about, they've popped up several times. And most people around our age love those shows too. Like you said, Rocko,
of course.
Doug, Our Real Monsters, all those shows.
Mm-hmm. See, I forgot. Yes, that was great.
Then there's some shows a little later that I feel you and I were already high school kids, where like the Angry Beavers I never really watched, or the Cat Dog I think is another one that
I watched. I watched Cat Dog.
Never watched it, but
good show.
I've never seen it. I don't know anything about Cat Dog or Angry Beavers for some reason. It's weird because I'm a early 90s to mid 90s Nickelodeon kid, and you are too for the most part. Yeah. And I remember the Adventures of Pete and Pete always being on, and like most things in the early 90s, when it went on, you watched it. Yeah. It was one of those shows. What's funny is I didn't watch, and I'm sure you're in the fucking same boat. I didn't watch it probably for like 15 years at one point. 10, 15 years until maybe my early 20s when they started releasing the seasons on DVD. That's when I had revisited the show and realized how smart it was. Yeah, like I wouldn't say a super fan. I wouldn't say I'm more of a super fan of Are You Afraid of the Dark.
Appreciated it more. That's what I should say. Appreciated it more. Yeah.
That's a better way of putting it. Appreciated it more as an adult because it is a really smart show, well written. It's beautifully shot, beautifully directed. The music, everyone always remembers the opening song, and just kind of the basic themes the show has and the coming of age nature of it. It's one of the few shows I think, and I dare say this, probably one of the smartest shows that has ever aired on Nickelodeon, in my opinion.
I could see why. I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, there hasn't been anything like it since, and that's when Nickelodeon was airing like live action shit and stuff like that. Besides, it was like Are You Afraid of the Dark, and then this. Besides all the like game shows and stuff,
and like sketch shows
and all that, which was a little later. But you realize it later in life that it was a really just kind of smart show. Now, if for some reason you've never heard of the Adventures of Pete and Pete, I got a little breakdown for you of what the show is, and then I'm gonna compare it to something and why, Dave, I think, and it's a show. It's the comparison's another thing I love as well, and I know you love it too. But the Adventures of Pete and Pete follow two brothers in the fictional town of Wellsville. That's where they live. It's like a basic American suburban town. That's what Wellsville is. You've got Big Pete and Little Pete Wrigley. One, Big Pete obviously is kind of around the high school age. I'd say about between 14 and 17 years old when the season, because there's only 3 seasons of this show. That's how long it lasted. And then Little Pete, he's middle school age, I'd say. Maybe even younger in this season.
I think middle school is about right. He's probably like 12,
13.
14, something like that. Yeah, 12, 13, because 14 you're in high school.
Not quite in high school yet. You know what I mean? I'm sure the actors were a little older portraying younger characters, but you get the point. And each episode follows them through a strange, self-contained adventure in the town. Every episode, there's overlapping characters from, obviously they have characters that pop in and out because it is a small town. But every episode you can kind of watch by itself and get the plot. You don't have to watch.
Right.
There's kind of episodes of the X-Files like that.
Yeah. It's almost like a non-Erie version of Erie, Indiana.
Yes. There's no supernatural, and I say that loosely because there's some weird shit that happens, but there's no supernatural entities.
There's no horror tinge to it. It's just but it is kind of similar in the way that they're self-contained. It follows two protagonists that are always together, and you meet like the quirky characters around town. It's very similar. They parallel to each other.
Another show we covered their Halloween episode, I think a year or so ago. Go back, give that a listen. But like you just said, town's full of eccentric, I guess is the right word to use, people that have kind of their own quirks and weird shit like that. Now, the comparison I have, and Dave.
Let's hear it.
Erie, Indiana, great comparison. But you know what I'd call this? Kind of the way it's shot, the fact that you're following the Pete's. This is kind of like a children's Twin Peaks.
Okay, I can see that.
Obviously not about a murder and you know what I mean and stuff like that. But
no, I get it though.
You get it? You've got like the log, like, saying. Like Artie's like the log lady. You know what I mean? Like there's a weird kind of, you've got your main character, then you've got these other characters that come in and out of every episode, but they're reoccurring.
For sure.
And they're all strange.
No, I agree with that.
And that's why I'm surprised
that's a fair statement.
Because I know you're a big Twin Peaks fan.
You know what it is? I think I just can't really remember. Excuse me. I can't remember watching it. I don't know. I just don't have a ton of memories of watching it. Like, I have memories of watching Are You Afraid of the Dark? I have memories of watching Doug. I just don't have huge memories of watching Pete. That's all. That's really all I have to say about it.
This must have been a show. This must have been a show. I guess as a kid, you probably changed the channel on. Maybe you saw it as live action, possibly. No, because you liked Are You Afraid of the Dark, and that's live action.
Yeah, no. So I just again, it's just one of those weird things. So I don't know.
Interesting. But the show was all over Nickelodeon in the 90s. They had a bunch of shorts. They had bumpers. I said it before. It lasted for 3 seasons, which isn't really a long, run.
No, I thought it was longer than that.
No, they had a lot of, they had specials and stuff like that would air that weren't connected to specific seasons. So I guess Pete and Pete were all over Nickelodeon, but the actual show only lasted 3 seasons. And that makes sense because these are child actors and they're growing up quick. So, and you see it from season to season, you see these kids transform into adults basically. It's kind of crazy. One more thing.
I'm trying to, sorry, I mean to cut you off. I'm trying to compare ages here because this was aired in 94, this episode. So I was 11. And Danny Tamborelli, I think that's his name, the little Pete. Yeah. I think he has to be probably around the same age. Probably 11 or 12.
Yeah, he might be like a year older than you. I'm guessing that he's
the same age as us, or a year older, something.
Because in this episode, another actor that pops up, and we haven't even gotten to the episode yet, but what's her name? Michelle, I think it's Trachtenberg. She was Harriet the Spy.
Harriet the Spy, yeah.
She's in this, and I think she's like my age, and she's little. She's probably like 9, maybe, and 10 in this episode.
Yeah, she's young.
So all these actors who were staples of Nickelodeon are around our age. Here. Yeah, like they were around our age. That's why I'm surprised. Like going back to you, I'm surprised you weren't a bigger fan of the show. But I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. One more thing before we dive into the actual episode. Of course, their Halloween episode, Halloweenie, is one thing about the show, and the reason why I think people forget it is, dude, it's kind of difficult to track down legally. It's
is
not,
it?
Yeah, it's not streaming on Paramount or Hulu.
Yeah,
or
I just watch it on YouTube.
Exactly. Someone uploaded it to YouTube. So if you want to watch, I think all 3 seasons are up there. It's on there streaming on YouTube. Very illegal, I'm sure. I'm sure if Paramount wanted to be out, Viacom, whoever owns fucking Nickelodeon,
sure,
wanted to take them down, they could. But they did release box sets. So like this is one of the box sets I'm holding right now, and I remember buying these again early 20s. These are like $50 now a piece. You're not finding them for
it.
Yeah, you're not finding them for like $10 or $9 on Amazon or fucking eBay or anything like that. They go for a couple of bucks, and they're all out of print. And
you might get lucky at a Goodwill or something, but
possibly.
That's it.
Like I bought that for $8, but I also bought that for $8 a long time ago. So
exactly.
That was if you look on eBay now, I think this box set, this is season 2, because the episode we're covering is on this season. I think it's like $50 I saw it for, and the first season is
I believe
even
that
more. So good luck finding them. But yeah, again, it's out there. Daily Motion, YouTube. Wink, wink, hint, hint. You can find them around if you don't have really to
wink, hint, hint. Yeah, if you know where to go to look for shit, just look for it.
You can find it. But yeah, let's jump into the Halloween episode that is Halloweenie.
Halloween is for Halloweenies.
Ah! Gotcha! You blinked.
Wrong.
It's season 2, episode 7.
Air date 10/9/94. Love that it also aired in October.
Yes, it was in October. So that 94, crazy.
And so it's setting you up to get into that mood too, because it's beginning of October, which is great.
Yes, and there's a phenomenal shot, I guess is the way it's a transitioning shot. You've got these fall leaves falling on a lawn. You've got a lot of full moon shots in this episode. It happens a bunch of times where you see a full moon. And then you've got these very retro 90s style trick-or-treaters begging for candy. These floating ghosts over the moon. You know what's another really cool transition? The full moon and then candy. A bowl of candy in the center. Great. Phenomenal atmosphere.
They set you up really well. Like they set this up very well.
They set up the Halloween vibes first second of this episode.
It's done perfectly.
Perfect intro. And like most Pete and Pete episodes, Big Pete's the narrator. He narrates basically every episode of the show. He's technically the main character of the show. You're looking through every episode. It's through his eyes, through his lens. And we learn that Big Pete is being all emo because he doesn't want to celebrate Halloween anymore. You know, he's getting older. He doesn't want to trick or treat, which is fucking lame that he doesn't want to trick or treat anymore. And he goes as far as smashing a pumpkin in the process. Just want to point that out. When we dive into some more details, there's some stuff about that I love, and we'll get into that a little later. But in the town of Wellsville, if you're a high school, and that's what you kind of get this from a conversation between Big Pete and Ellen, I believe. Who's his best friend?
I forgot her name,
Yeah, I believe it's Ellen. She's not his girlfriend. She's his best friend. But they kind of bicker back and forth as a married couple, which is kind of funny. But that's the point of the show, I feel. These are like children they're children that act like adults. And the way they talk is way too witty and smart.
Especially Little Pete.
Yeah, Little Pete especially. He's like a little middle-aged man in every episode. But in Wellsville, if you're a high school age kid and you're still trick-or-treating, you're basically a loser. Like that's how people view someone the age of 15, 16, 17 trick-or-treating. you're just a bum. You just are fucking low life. It's looked down upon. It's looked down upon harshly, like you said, Dave. Very harsh. Now, we get this great scenario where we learn about this 15-year-old boy named Ned who goes trick-or-treating one night. And the main attraction of this episode, a group of mischievous BMX-riding, jack-o'-lantern-wearing vandals known as the Pumpkin Eaters attack him. They attack him specifically because he's such a loser. Now I'm gonna get into the Pumpkin Eaters in a second here.
It's spelled E-T-E-R-S, right?
Yes. Pumpkin Eaters.
Yeah. I like that.
So the Pumpkin Eaters, this group, they've got a plan. And it's to terrorize the town of Wellsville every Halloween. These motherfuckers are smashing pumpkins, destroying property, harassing trick-or-treaters, whipped creaming, TPing trees.
Everything.
And their end goal...
Chaos reigns.
Yes. The end goal is for them to cancel Halloween forever in Wellsville. That's what they want to do. They want to flat out cancel Halloween. And dude, the scenarios when we see them in both reenactments, because it's kind of like flashback reenactment deals when Big Pete and Little Pete are kind of talking about the Pumpkin Eaters. You see the chaos that they cause. It's like
it's funny.
Oh, dude, it's fucking hilarious. It's like a block with pumpkin guts scattered in every corner. It's like they smash every pumpkin that exists in Wellsville. And you see like whipped cream everywhere, trick-or-treaters crying, like fully decked out in their costumes.
Sitting on the curb, sobbing. Yep.
Dude, just the way they portray, you would think these guys are like the Bloods and Crips. The type of shit that, the chaos that
they hate
cause.
Halloween.
They fucking hate Halloween. But are the most Halloween-looking thing in the world. That's the irony of it. But
that is funny.
It is fucking hilarious. They are it's like you would think these kids are celebrating Halloween full blown with the way they're going about destroying or trying to destroy Halloween. It's counterproductive. It makes no...
Yeah, they look like Halloween purists, and they're not.
You would think, and we're going to get into what they look like a little later. I want to dive a little deeper because it is one of, and I'm pretty sure it's one of yours. It's one of our, I know it. It's one of our favorite aspects of this episode.
Sure.
Right? I think it goes without saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's also another plot in this episode that involves Little Pete. And it's probably the funniest fucking thing in this episode. So, Little Pete wants to beat a town record that consists of trick-or-treating at the most houses in town. Because there's like some record, some previous, like there's like two siblings, I guess, they hold the record for visiting. I think it's like 351 houses. Something.
It's 300 and change. Yeah, 300 houses and change, and they have like
something
little
like that.
They're like dressed as ghosts.
Yeah, and Little Pete wants to beat that by one house, I think, or something like that. He's not trying to beat it by much. It's just one house, and this is one of the most important goals to him, and he fails every year. And the kind of problem in the episode is Little Pete needs the help of Big Pete to accomplish this goal. He can't do it alone. Who else is going to help him hold all this candy? You know what I mean?
These giant sacks that you see in the episode of him dragging down the block. Yes.
Yes. It's fucking... Dude, you know what they look like? Gym bags.
It just looks like duffel bags full of fucking crap.
Giant duffel bags full of candy. So that's the dilemma. Big Pete's dilemma is he feels bad not helping his little brother because he hates Halloween this year. He's all mopey and shit and doesn't want to celebrate.
He's too much of a downer.
Yeah, he's too much of a fucking bummer. But it's his little brother. He loves him. And he wants to help little Pete accomplish this goal. But the underlying issue is hopefully they don't run into the evil force that is the Pumpkin Eaters.
Pete knew exactly who they were. The Pumpkin Eaters. A pack of goons who turn Halloween into Halloween. No one knows their true identities, but every year they rip through Wellsville like a twister, pulverizing the Halloween spirit of everyone who still believes. They are the Dark Knights of Halloween.
All right, bud. So, before we get into the ending of this episode and what happens, I want to talk about some stuff we like. And, I did kind of rush, but kind of briskly
that's the gist
run
of it.
through, run through the episode. And I want to show some love to the Pumpkin Eaters because these characters in the world of Halloween and nostalgic, the nostalgic community, Halloween lovers like us, and people that love Pete, love old Nickelodeon. The Pumpkin Eaters are kind of a cult figure. You see T-shirts made of them.
Monsters Outside.
Yeah,
I have it, and Sheila. I'm sure do you have that shirt too?
I think I have it too. Yeah. And I've seen prints of these characters. I've seen tattoos people have gotten of these characters. And going back to what I said, they are the epitome of people that celebrate, and it would make for a killer Halloween costume. Like the Pumpkin Eaters would be a phenomenal. Like if you can get 3 or 4 other people.
Let me add on to this.
Yeah.
To do the Pumpkin Eaters and to do the astronauts.
Yes.
Would be a really good group costume.
Yeah, because I didn't even touch on that. Big Pete, Little Pete dress up as astronauts. I think it's Buzz and what's his name? What are the Buzz Aldrin? Is it? And
I forgot Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong.
Right? Yeah.
I'm not,
and
not,
also
not a space guy here. So.
Important to note, there is a scene where Big Pete mentions that Little Pete was very excited he can piss himself in his costume.
Yes, I have that in my notes here. I have that in my notes that Little Pete, he looks so satisfied being able to piss in his costume. There's literally a shot, and it's crazy that this aired. Like, I don't feel like they wouldn't air something like this on Nickelodeon now, but like
maybe not.
Maybe it's kind of gross. You know what I mean? But Nickelodeon was gross in the early '90s. But
yes, it was.
In the voiceover with Big Pete, Little Pete's walking. He's leaving their house, front yard. He's walking. He stops, pisses himself, and he's just like, yes, or something like that. He's like
so relieved.
So relieved. It's fucking gross and hysterical.
It is.
But going back to the Pumpkin Eaters, dude, just the characters riding around, like their BMX bikes look way too small for them. If you notice, one of them is like, there's a shot where one of them looks like he's like my height. He's like 6'1", riding a child's BMX bike, and his legs are hitting hitting his chin.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
He's riding, because these were probably adults. You don't see. So the Pumpkin Eaters are mysterious, except for one character. When we get into the ending, it's revealed who it is. But no one knows who they are in Wellsville. They're a mysterious group of characters.
They only pop up during Halloween.
Only during Halloween. And like I said, it's obviously they look like grown men wearing pumpkin heads that are all designed uniquely to their faces. And then they're riding these BMX bikes that have Ben Cooper style masks. One of them has a mask glued to the handlebars on the front. It just
I didn't notice that.
Oh, dude, the visual. Yeah. There's one shot of them where they're just riding down a block on their BMX bikes, and it's like one of them has, I think, like a Halloween decoration in the handlebar. One has like a Ben Cooper mask. They have the pumpkins. The main one's wearing a bomber jacket. One's wearing a vest with the skull T-shirt on it. It's like the most basic shitty kid
How do you
costume.
not like Halloween? How do they not like Halloween?
They look like a bunch of metalheads. Or like 90s metalheads, like kids that listen to Pantera and Megadeth with jack-o'-lanterns on their heads, riding BMX bikes and like wearing Converse and like Doc Martens. It's fucking amazing. Yeah. And dude, like they're flying over fences somehow without a ramp.
Yeah, it's like those from the ground shots of them jumping over fences, and it's great.
Good. It's so good. Just there, I'm glad something like this exists. I'm surprised it hasn't, at least to my knowledge, has not been referenced in like movies and stuff. It's so...
You know what? Mm-hmm. Do you want to know what I think maybe? And this is a stretch.
What?
You know the episode of The Office when Dwight has the pumpkin on his head?
Which we've talked about.
Maybe they've gotten that idea from Pete and Pete. Because that's the only other time I've seen that. Besides Garfield, but you know, that's whatever.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else that there's someone with a pumpkin on their head and they're walking around, and they're not like a supernatural, like, you know, like Sam from Trick or Treat or something like that, where they're like a supernatural, you know, these are just kids. They're not like a supernatural entity or something like that. So it's so good, dude. And they're bickering back and forth. There's that scene where they're watching Big Pete when and that's another thing I love about. I will get into that scene in a second, but they watch Big Pete smash a pumpkin. And one of them is talking about how his pumpkin smells like tangerine for some reason. Yeah. It's just, they're like obviously these dorky kids, but it just works so well for in the end, the losery trick-or-treaters that if you go out trick-or-treating and you're a teenager, you're like this fucking bum-ass kid. That's what they are, but don't even realize it, you know, with what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I fucking love, dude. I love the pumpkin eaters. It's just they make this episode. If without them, if it was just some random kids in like rubber Halloween mask, I don't think it would be nearly as good. You know what I mean?
I would be fine with it, but I agree with you, but I would also still be fine with it because I'm just going to say it right now. One of my favorite, and I know you know what I'm going to say right now, probably. If my favorite aspect of this episode is that they nail the Halloween spirit perfectly. Like, there's nothing to be said that they didn't do right. Like, everything they did was right.
Yeah.
And that's how I remember Halloween being at that age.
The thing I could compare it to, and we've covered it on Patreon, is Halloween 4. Just that vibe, that ambiance, that early 90s Halloween. And it's a great balance because it's not annoying Halloween. Like there's not fucking, it feels like the autumn. There's decorations on the houses. There's a shit ton of jack-o'-lanterns.
Overdone. It's not overdone.
It's weird to say that it's not overdone Halloween
without nailing it perfectly.
Like remember when we covered Hubie Halloween a few years ago?
Yeah, like it's overload. We love it, but it's overload.
You know, remember his house was like every inch of it was covered in Halloween to the point of it being obnoxious. This is the perfect balance of Halloween decor, Halloween atmosphere. There's a shit ton of jack-o'-lanterns in the best way possible. And there's not a lot of costumes in this, but it's the perfect amount. You know
it really
I mean?
is. Honestly, it really is. And here, I have one note. So the way the suburbs look in this episode should be the standard for all TV and film when you're doing Halloween. Just reference this Pete episode and set up your fucking shots like this because it's done immaculately.
Yeah, if you want to capture the Halloween atmosphere to a T, watch this episode and make your movie or episode or whatever a lot better. Dude, you know, I think we've said it for other shows and stuff we've covered that have nailed the Halloween vibes. Like this is the atmosphere you want when trying to recreate the holiday. Sure. You know, in any form, I guess, any type of media, this is the vibe you want.
Pete, you can't go trick-or-treating.
It's no big deal.
I know what this is about. So you smashed a pumpkin. Is that worth ruining your life?
I think you're being a little dramatic.
Dramatic? I'll give you dramatic. I got 2 words for you.
Ellen, don't.
Ned Richmond.
Going back to kind of Big Pete and that scene where he smashes the pumpkin, and this is in my notes, is one of my favorite things. I love how fucking mopey he is. Like he is just dragging his feet, hating Halloween. Like literally he says he hates Halloween. And I love that by the end of it, he loves Halloween again. Like doing like saving the day and saving Halloween. And when we get into the ending, we can break that down a bit more. But just, you know, that scene where he comes across all the destroyed and shattered jack-o'-lanterns, and there's only one jack-o'-lantern sitting there, and he's with Ellen, and she's just watching him grab this pumpkin and lifting it over his head all dramatically, smashing it down, and it's almost like he killed a puppy. Like it's so fucking silly, but I love it, you know, and just how serious they take the holiday. I love just us being a Halloween show predominantly, and it all going back to Halloween, and how I've never smashed a pumpkin personally. I don't know if it's ever come up in the show in the past. But like, I love how they compare it to something as brutal. It's like, oh man, smashing that jack-o'-lantern.
Sacred.
Really, yeah, it's sacred. It really shows you that he really hates Halloween, and there's no going back. And it plays into kind of the Pumpkin Eater's plans with Big Pete later on when it's all revealed, you know, part of their scheme. And I fucking love that. And you know, I mentioned it before, the conversation between Big Pete and Ellen, you know, when they're discussing, like, you know, he plans on going out trick-or-treating with Little Pete. And Ellen's like, you can't do that. No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't go trick-or-treating. It's unacceptable, you know? I love that. I think it's just fucking hysterical that they're like a married couple, even though they're best friends, you know? They're not dating or anything like that. So good. One more little thing I want to mention that I caught, you know, and I watched this episode, you know, for the recording twice, and I missed it the first time. There's a montage of Pete and Pete trick-or-treating, right? And they're going up to different people's houses, and everyone knows that the Pumpkin Eaters are out fucking wreaking havoc, right? And
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, there's two things actually. So the first thing is, what is it? Tell me. I want to hear what it is.
Because I think I have one of the things you're gonna say in my notes. So go ahead.
All right. So they go to a house, and people are like locking their doors. They don't want to, you know, interact with people and give kids candy. First, I don't know how these people do it, but through the gutters,
I have that in my notes. I knew you were going to say it.
It's so silly. Dude, through the gutters, candy falls because they don't want to. It's like literally, dude, it's funny because, you know, with the pandemic, when Halloween happened, people were creating these contraptions. And that's what it reminded me of. It's like candy, somehow they fucking created some sort of mechanism that the candy falls through the rain gutters.
Came right through the gutter.
And they pick it up, and Little Pete's running, like thumbs up, like he's got more candy.
And the person in the window, gives a thumbs up. It's like, we did it.
So fucking silly, but it fits the tone of the show perfectly. And then there's also one more little thing where Big Pete is holding a handful of candy corn, and he goes to Little Pete, and he goes, energy supplement. And Little Pete shoves his face into Big Pete's hand and eats all the fucking candy corn, and then runs off.
They gotta stay fueled, man.
Yo, dude, they gotta stay. Yeah, they need that energy.
They need that Halloween fuel.
Yo, dude, it's like candy corn is that Halloween fuel. It's like, let me get a pound. Let me pound down some candy corn so I can continue trick or treating in this like sugar rush. Perfect.
The only thing they would need with that is like a Jolt cola or something.
Yes.
Remember fucking Jolt?
Yeah. Wash down the fucking...
Yo. What was Jolt? Was it triple the caffeine? Imagine that.
I think
Imagine making a soda that's at 3 times the caffeine as a normal one.
It's funny because I'm 90% sure there's like energy drinks out now that put Jolt cola to shame. But yeah,
probably
the concept of a soda that can give you a heart attack at 10 years old is fucking ridiculous.
And,
the shit they were selling
but it
to
worked
kids.
because every kid wanted it. I wanted Jolt. I had it I had it all the time.
I had it several times too. Was it Surge?
Surge is another one. Surge, like it was like a Mountain Dew. Surge was like a Mountain Dew type of drink.
But I could have sworn it was like, drink a Surge if you need more energy or something like that. It was like double the caffeine of a Sprite or some shit or a Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
So, so ridiculous. But
hype yourself up even more.
That's what Little Pete needed. He needed to be hyped up to continue the fucking to continue to try to reach his goal of all the
Dude, it's Halloween night.
Reaching all the houses on
Absolutely.
Halloween night. But one other thing I love plays into the ending, so I'm going to get into the ending of the episode right here. So, at the end of Halloweenie, Big Pete is chased by the pumpkin eaters, and he leads them to the town's haunted house. Now, I want to pause here for a second and talk about this haunted house. This is the most sorry excuse of a haunted house, a haunted attraction ever, but that's what I love about it so much. What were you going to say,
But they don't use it. I don't.
Yes.
I had this in my notes that do they ever revisit this haunted house, or is it used in any other episodes?
To
I don't
my
remember.
knowledge, no.
See, to me, that's a missed opportunity, but that's all I'm going to say.
It's funny because I think the gag is that it's so shitty. So this haunted house is it looks like it's an abandoned house.
But it's not even open.
It's not even open. You know what I took it as? It's the end of the night, and it was open.
I mean, that's what I took it as, too. Yeah.
It's like, it's the end
Which
of the night.
is interesting. That's an interesting approach to that.
Yeah. It's the end. Because think about it. Big Pete and Little Pete, there's even a scene where they say they're the last people trick-or-treating. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, it's like 4 a.m. in this town.
I know.
And they just, obviously the pumpkin eaters are going to continue the rest of the night fucking doing their mischief and destroying everything. But since Little Pete wants to beat this record, you'd have to be out all goddamn night to hit this many houses.
300 and change, yeah.
Yeah. So the haunted house, the people that work there, the scare actors, all of them would be gone, and they just, I guess, leave the haunted house unattended. But yes, I love, dude, how empty this haunted. It's like shitty decorations. It's like shit you'd find at Party City. It's fucking amazing.
It's enough for me.
It's enough for me too. I wish it looks like a home haunt, and that's what's perfect about it. But I love how Big Pete talks shit about it as he's walking through. Mm-hmm. Like he's pushing there's these pumpkin dummies inside that look like the pumpkin eaters. There's skeletons hanging and Halloween decor on the wall, and he's just poking it and pushing it, and this is lame. And I'm like, dude, in 20 years, you're going to appreciate everything that's in that haunted attraction. That's what I'm telling myself to Big Pete.
Yep.
It's so good. And I love that the episode ends here. That's the best thing about it. It ends in a haunted attraction, the town's haunted house.
That's been, like we think, closed. So it ends when the night ends, or if you will.
Which I know you love the concept of Halloween night ending, and that's what the end of this episode is.
Well. It isn't the biggest Halloweenie of them all.
So to go back to the ending, Big Pete, he's in this haunted house. The pumpkin eaters follow him into the haunted house. So what ends up happening is Little Pete is upset because the two of them are separated, and he sort of takes it that Big Pete abandoned him and didn't finish helping him with the trick-or-treating record.
Yes.
And they have these walkie-talkie headsets in their helmets, and that's how they're communicating, going back and forth in between, houses and stuff. And he doesn't realize that Big Pete is now face-to-face with the pumpkin eaters, but he overhears them, approaching him and antagonizing him, and they're fucking with Big Pete. So what ends up happening is we learn that the pumpkin eaters are trying to convince Big Pete, because they watched him earlier, like I said, they watched him smash the pumpkin. They want him to join their gang. They want him to join the pumpkin eaters gang, which I totally would have. Just gonna say that right now. Would you have, Dave? Yeah, exactly. Who wouldn't want to fucking join the pumpkin eaters? But since they saw him smash,
but my agenda would be different.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to end Halloween.
It would be the opposite of their agenda.
I'd be like an informant. I'd be in the gang, fucking telling Pete and Pete yo, man, these guys are here. And this is what they're fucking doing.
But we're gonna overcome. We're gonna be the pumpkin eaters that want to keep Halloween alive.
We'd be the third person on the mic, on the walkie-talkie headset, telling them where the pumpkin eater, like
every move.
Yeah. Yo, they're on Elm Street right now, fucking TPing someone's car, whipped creaming someone, like shaving creaming someone's fucking car. But yes, Big Pete contemplates. He actually thinks about joining the pumpkin eaters. And there's this great line because the pumpkin eaters, the leader, and I haven't revealed who he is yet, but the leader of the pumpkin eaters, I'm going to call him Bomber Jacket Pumpkin Eater because he's wearing like a bomber jacket. And then in this scene, he contemplates Big Pete and he says, having the power to crush the spirit of Halloween by crushing and destroying this little jack-o'-lantern. He has the power to crush the spirit. I love how Halloween rests on the shoulders of Big Pete.
It's been bestowed.
Yes.
Bestowed to Big Pete.
By crushing this jack-o'-lantern. It's fucking glorious how fucking dumb it is, but I fucking love it. But yes, he doesn't do it. He doesn't smash the pumpkin. Instead, he uses that pumpkin and smashes the leader of the pumpkin eaters with it. And we learn that it's this guy called Endless Mike, who is a recurring character. He's like the bully. He's the bully of the town. And he's popped up. He's the shitty kid of Wellsville. That's basically
he's
what
the
it
Roger
is.
Klotz.
Exactly. Of it's exactly who he is. Of Wellsville. And he knocks him out. Little Pete shows up with the inept security guard. He tries to headbutt Endless Mike and fails. He knocks himself unconscious and falls back. And in the process, Big Pete takes another jack-o'-lantern and uses it to sort of he smashes it on Endless Mike's head, but it sort of gets stuck on Endless Mike's head. And he's just sitting there.
He's wearing a pumpkin eater's helmet again.
But it's like backwards. There's no holes cut into it. There's no jack-o'-lantern. So he's like just stuck screaming like, help me, help me. And basically the pumpkin eaters are taken into custody by the security man. And Pete and Pete save Halloween. That's how it ends. They save Halloween. It's a great ending. You know, they walk away into, there's a great shot of them in their like astronaut costumes walking into the night at the end of Halloween. And, you know, Big Pete's Halloween spirit is back. And they're feeling good about everything. And, you know, and Little Pete didn't get to beat his record, which is another thing I love about the episode, how he's not selfish at the end, Little Pete. And he decides to save his brother or try to save his brother because his brother was willing to help him. You know, and they went on to live another day, another Halloween, a Halloween in the future to come. They saved Halloween, you know? And so I love that, dude. I love that, man. I just love how they play that out. And it's like these two brothers come together, even though they disagree. And Big Pete's all fucking hating Halloween. And by the end of it, he loves it again, man. It's great. It's great. It's great. What'd you think of the ending? It's beautiful.
I loved it. The whole thing is great. It's honestly an essential viewing. You have to watch it during Halloween time. I mean, it's just, there's no.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no. There is one thing I wanted to add. Iggy Pop is in this episode.
Well, he's recurring too. He's a recurring character as well, yeah.
And he calls Endless Mike a stooge, which I thought was really funny because of the Stooges. I just thought that was really
Easter egg there. You know, if you know who Iggy Pop is, the Stooges, his band from back in the day. That's cool. And this show's full of actors like that. Like Janine Garofalo's in an episode. There's a lot of actors that pop up, and you know, Toby Huss is Artie the Strong. He's not in this episode, but you know that actor who he's in Halloween. By the way, the 2018 Halloween.
Sheila went as Artie for Halloween once. Before I know Sheila. And she looked awesome. She had like the pixie cut and everything. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a great Halloween costume. A lot of the characters.
It really is. She killed it.
Yo, dude. Another character in this episode that's referenced is Mr. Tasty, who a lot of people know There's a whole episode about the ice cream. I'm not gonna get into it now, but there's this character who no one knows, mysterious, and he's got an ice cream mascot like Mr. Softy head, and he gives people ice cream, and I believe if I remember correctly, he vanishes or something, and he's a mysterious character, and they reference him in this episode. So that's something that you would have to be a fan of the show and watch to get that. You know what I mean? Endless Mike says it. Who do you think, like when it's revealed that it's him, I think his line is, who do you think it was? Mr. Tasty or whatever. So I do like that. Yeah. I like how they play that up too. It's kind of like Seinfeld. You know, the characters pop up and there's references to other episodes, even if it's not as direct as, you know, you don't have to watch a previous episode to get what they're talking about. I mean, to enjoy the episode, but to get that reference, you have to have watched a previous episode. But like I teased earlier, I'm going to say this. I think, in my opinion, when it comes to live action Halloween shows, this episode, number one. I think it does, and I'm a huge fan of the Haunted Mask, Goosebumps the Haunted Mask, which I also think did a fantastic job creating that Halloween atmosphere. But I think this is probably the best.
I think it's in the top 10. I'll say or maybe top 5.
I'd say it's in my top 5. Yeah, for sure.
I'm comparing it to the Tale of the Twisted Claw. Yeah. Because that's another one that's a banger.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're on par with each other because because they match that atmosphere very well too on Nickelodeon with that episode.
Yeah.
And the other one, which we did talk about, Even Stevens. The Even Stevens Did we not talk about that? I mentioned it.
You mentioned it, but we haven't dived deep into it.
That's another one that I love, that I think is done very well too. So I think all three of them are on par with each other. But I'm sure there's still things that we've probably yet to find.
Yeah,
I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah, everything about this episode, when it comes to the perfect Halloween special, right? It's got a plot that revolves around Halloween. It's Halloween. The holiday is vital. It's not a story where it's just set on Halloween. Halloween is an aspect of what's happening in the episode. You know, Big Pete, and we could all relate to getting older and feeling that we can't celebrate Halloween anymore. It's a child's holiday.
And there's that message that it's okay to have that childlike spirit.
Innocence. Like, that goes with the holiday. And I think that is one of the things that makes it so strong. The other thing is how there's episodes like Halloween episodes where it doesn't technically feel like Halloween because it feels like a set. We've covered Roseanne episodes, and I love those. And those have great Halloween atmosphere and vibes, but it still feels like a set. Nothing in this feels like a set, dude. Nothing.
No, I agree with you.
It feels real. Going back to what I said earlier, Halloween 4.
Well, that's why that's why I said it. To me, this is what it was like when we were kids on Halloween. It looked like that.
And that's why I dare say with you. I dare say top 5. I don't know where I'd rank it.
Yeah, I would say top 5.
I think in the future we can definitely do an episode where we rank our top 5 Halloween episodes of all time. But I can say confidently this would be on it. I don't know where it would rank, but this I think would be on it. And the plot, the setup, even before it's actually, because it does take place I think a day or two before Halloween. There's that great scene.
It takes place on Devil's Night. Because the beginning of it, because the one guy, that security guy, says it. Yeah. That he even says it. It's Devil's Night, which is great. As another, I forgot to mention that. He actually says that.
You got that great scene where they're carving pumpkins. The dad's carving a pumpkin, then you've got Little Pete using a vacuum to scoop up all the guts and just setting it up, building up the holiday.
And then they have the fog machine going through the pumpkin's mouth.
Yes. Yeah, that's
great.
And just every aspect of it, I think, was just executed. It's like one of those, the script is so fucking tight, dude. It's so tight. And just the way they were able to tell this story and then fit every narrative in it perfectly, like a puzzle. You know, Big Pete's issues, Little Pete with his record, the Halloween, like, you know, the pumpkin eaters, and then being called a Halloweenie and being too old to trick or treat. And just everything, dude. Everything about it. Everything about it to me is fucking perfect. And that's what I think is so important about it.
I agree with you.
You know, I think people around our age are familiar with this, but I think people that are maybe a little younger that aren't familiar with the Adventures of Pete and Pete should definitely go out of their way to watch this episode during the Halloween season. You know, considering it's not streaming anywhere, I feel like it is forgotten about, you know, at a certain age, you know, that it, you know, people maybe that are 20 now, this isn't their go-to Halloween thing, I would assume. You know what I mean? But I feel like maybe those kids or younger people should revisit it or discover it, I should say, because of how fucking awesome it is. And I think I think this is the essential viewing during Halloween. Like, you have to watch this.
I agree. I have that. All right, so I'm gonna. This is my closing thought on this.
Okay.
It is absolutely an essential October viewing. Yeah. I think that this would pair wonderfully with Jacko. You watch this, and then you watch Jacko.
I could see that. Dare I say this is better than Jacko, in my opinion.
It's better than Jacko. Yes. But yes. I feel like these two are a very good pairing.
Yes.
That's just me.
Jacko, another movie we definitely have to cover. I'd like to get, when we cover Jacko,
I love that movie.
You need to be on that. You need to be on that episode.
You smashed a pumpkin. Oh, it was beautiful. And now here you are in this pathetic excuse of a haunted house, hating Halloween even more.
Is there anything about the episode you didn't like?
I think I would have liked to have seen the haunted house in action. I think that's what I would like. Yeah. I would love to have seen that.
That's more like a nitpick, right? In reality, it's not really. It's not something you hate about the episode. I don't hate anything. This is
neither do I.
As close to perfection as it gets to me. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's just the most, just when it comes to Halloween shit in general, movies, TV shows, music, whatever.
Yeah, it's top tier.
Top tier.
Yeah.
But that's why I didn't really get into him much. I would say the thing I think is kind of annoying, and I didn't think it was funny, and there's a lot of funny shit like in the show in general, is the security guy. The towns, I thought he was kind of lame. He's not in it much. You know, that one...
No, he's not really.
That one scene where he's like, it's a war zone out there when the pumpkin eaters are throwing eggs and they're egging them is kind of funny, but I think that's tied to the pumpkin eaters, and that's why I like that. But like that scene, he's kind of the lamest part, but it's not offensive. I wouldn't be like, oh, he sucks. You know what I mean? Or like, it's just not right. It's kind of dumb.
Yeah,
I prefer Iggy Pop popping, like his little thing,
of course,
as Harriet the Spy's dad. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I think his name is Pops, which is kind of funny if you think.
Is it? I didn't catch his name.
They call him Pop. I think it's Little Pete says like Pops, like that like Harriet the Spy.
Right.
He's like Pops or something like that. That's what they call him. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, you know, my closing thoughts, I kind of went into it. All I could say is this is the epitome of Halloween and Halloween specials. If you've never seen The Adventures of Pete and Pete, go out of your way, I think, and checking it out. I think you'll enjoy it. This Halloween season, watch Halloweenie because it's fucking phenomenal. And, you know, by any means necessary, sit down, 24 minutes, watch this.
Yeah, it goes by quick.
Yeah, and you will thank us later.
We helped save Halloween in Wellsville. Now, every year, when the leaves come, so does Halloween. Setting free the ghouls and goblins of our souls for one magical night. Especially for two brothers who will always believe.
So that was The Adventures of Pete and Pete, Halloweenie. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, @Haunted Hangover, and head over to hauntedhangover.com. There's links to our Patreon, the video version of this episode, the audio-only version of this episode, and links to a bunch of other shit that we have to offer here at Haunted Hangover.
And if you can rate and review us, that would be greatly appreciated.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is...
more booze. Bye!